Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is our final event of Small Business Week, which has been a really exciting week of events here for Cozy and a lot of our members and a lot of our board members and speakers. So glad that you're here with us today. We have another great session planned for you. Today is Plan for Business Growth, how to build a 2022 strategy that will 10 times your business growth. Our speaker today is Cheryl Perez. Cheryl is the CEO of Cheryl C. Perez Brands, which is a brand of companies that provides consulting, coaching, and online training programs to entrepreneurs and business owners who want to develop and build the operational, sales, service, and HR processes and systems to start and scale their businesses. Cheryl has over 25 years of experience in starting and scaling businesses, including her own, so she possesses a uniquely qualified insider view of what makes a business truly succeed. And she'll give all of you a step-by-step guidance so that you can determine, document, delegate, and reclaim your time and experience the freedom of living the life that you love. So Cheryl, thank you for being with us today, and I will hand it over to you to get us started.
Thank you so much, Megan. And thank you guys for joining in with us. I am excited to be here with you today, talking about business growth and how to kind of create that growth plan. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. I want you to know that virtual can be very difficult. We've heard a lot of, I'm over Zoomed and it's hard to really get engaged, but I am an engagement oriented person. So if you don't pay attention, you might miss some cues because I will definitely want some feedback from you in the chat. As we move forward, if you've got questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or just raise your hand because I won't necessarily be able to see it, but I've got a whole amazing team at GCP that's watching for me. And then we'll also have some time at the end to just talk a little bit as entrepreneurs and as business owners about how to really be able to build and grow our strategies into 2022. And I'm going to share with you guys what I think are the 3 strategies that if you haven't already incorporated them into your overall goals for next year, those 3 strategies that you should really be thinking about adding in so that you can kind of get to that next level in 2022. So I'm very excited to get started with you. And we're talking today really about business growth, and it's really important to kind of brainstorm on what I mean when I say a business growth plan, because I'm not talking about that traditional business plan that we as entrepreneurs all dove into when we first had those ideas about starting our businesses. We had to put together these very complicated things that ultimately either we were using to potentially get some funding or some investments, or for most of us, if you were like me, it ended up in a file cabinet somewhere that I just found when I did my garage sale in October, and I actually used it as fire starter and kindling because it was really cold that day. I'm not talking about that plan. I'm talking about a real true tool that I've been using in my life and in my businesses for the last 25 years that can help me get to that next level and give me the clarity and the focus that I need to step outside of working in my business every single day and give me an opportunity to keep my team and myself focused on working on my business from that perspective. So I know that Megan kind of gave you an idea about who I am. I'm very excited to meet you. And I'm Cheryl Perez, but all my friends, all my peeps call me CP. So I want you guys to call me CP as well. It's a lot easier. And I've been doing this for about 25 years. I've had multiple businesses. I currently am the CEO of 2 businesses that are under a brand of companies. It's the first time that I've done a brand to kind of monitor multiple businesses. And I've sold a business, which was an amazing opportunity. And then, you know, if you're like me and you're a serial entrepreneur, I failed at a couple of businesses as well. And this particular strategy that I'm going to share with you guys today is kind of my secret sauce. I get asked quite often, how was I able to scale my businesses without any kind of outside financial support? So I've always grown them organically. And one of the ways that I've done that is by doing this system that I'm going to walk you guys through today. And not only am I a serial entrepreneur, but I'm also a mom of 6. And so getting this focus that I use this strategy for has helped me be able to balance my life and to get everything done that's on those lists of ours and ultimately in our heads as well. So business growth planning, I'm going to also give you guys a free gift at the end. So make sure you stick around, make sure you pay attention, because I'm going to give you guys something that I think will really help you as you spend the next few weeks wrapping up 2021, but really getting ready for 2022 in your businesses. So what is a business growth plan? Let's start there, because I know I mentioned it's different than the original business plan that we all traditionally think about. And unlike that dreaded one that I talked about, a business growth plan is purely a 1-year strategic plan that will give you your focus and your game plan to get your business to the next level. And I started doing this because my very first business, I was a consultant for nonprofit organizations. And nonprofits, as you guys know, are really always creating these strategic plans, right? They create these strategic plans or 3-year plans or 5-year plans. And it wasn't something that for-profit businesses really did. And I thought in my for-profit business, because my job was to help these nonprofits create these strategic plans, was why don't I have one of these in my business? I mean, those strategic plans put their fundraising goals in place. It talked about what programming they wanted to do. It talked about what partners they wanted to, to acquire, what specific action items they wanted to do in order to get their business, their organizations to the next level. And I said, I need one of those. And my very first one was like a 3-year plan. And then I realized at the end of the first year that it completely changed. So I switched and I said, I'm only going to do one per year. So it's my growth plan. It's a couple pages, but it really does give me and my team focus, and it allows me to communicate that vision for just 1 year to my team as well. So if I really had to break this down for you as to what this business growth plan is, it's a strategic business activity and process. It's the creation of a very important document in your journey as an entrepreneur. And it's very simple, but it's also smart in that traditional way, right? Specific and measurable, achievable, realistic, and it's also very timely. So it's not just some random notes from a notebook. It's the result of you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, really finally taking the time to work on your business and not just in it. So this is one of those moments where I'm going to ask you guys to give me some feedback in the chat. If you can feel me as an entrepreneur on that concept, do you just walk around all the time really being in the thick of working in your business and you're thinking to yourself, I need to take the time to figure out what I'm going to do next, but I don't have the time because I'm in the thick of it. And what people are always saying, work on your business, don't work in it, work on it, work in it. And you're thinking, yeah, easier said than done. Well, this is that process for you. If you agree with that, and if you've experienced wanting to work on your business more, but not feeling like you have the time to do it, and you're always constantly in your business, put in the chat, I feel you, CP. Just 4 words. I feel you, CP. I want to see how many of you guys are in agreement with me, because working on my business was always something that I struggled with. And I still struggle with, because I still am in the thick of working in it. But this process requires me to be able to work on my business. And so I'm very excited to share it with you and to hopefully give you guys some help in being able to achieve it as well. So steps, I'm a step-by-step kind of girl. We are about to dive into what your steps should be, and how you're going to actually get this growth plan created, what you should do in order to get it done, and then also how you're going to actually get it done, because I'm going to actually be the first person in your life to tell you how to work on your business and not just in it. So let's start with step number one. Step number one, and we're only out, really only have 6 steps. So step number one in creating your growth strategy is to conduct a SWOT analysis. So when I'm creating mine, the first thing I do is I go through a period of assessment. The first thing you do is you have to assess where you are. You have to figure out what your strengths currently are in your business as an entrepreneur. So what are you good at? What are you doing right, and what's working internally? Then you really have to keep it real with yourself and talk about and figure out what your weaknesses are. And as entrepreneurs, sometimes, our egos, we're always in charge, we're always directing, we're always telling everybody else what they need to do. One of our weaknesses can be the fact that we don't necessarily like to sit down and say, whew, I am really doing this piece badly. Whether it's social media, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales processes, whether it's technology, you have to take time to think about what your weaknesses are. What aren't you doing well? What's not working internally? Then you have to spend some time figuring out what opportunities are out there. So you've got to do a market analysis and a competitive analysis. And you've got to really document and figure out what your threats are. And for instance, is COVID a threat to your business? If so, how is it a threat to your business? And I say, is COVID a threat to your business? You might be thinking, isn't COVID a threat to everyone's business? And the answer is no. Have you heard some of these profits that are coming out of some of these organizations that COVID actually propelled to the next level? So it's not a threat to everybody, but it might be a threat to you. So you've got to take time to review all of those. So how do I do that, right? So how do I figure out what my threats are? First thing I do is a financial analysis. And I do this financial analysis by looking at all of my books. So I've got to figure out what's costing me money, what's making me money, and if it's making me money, what my profit margins look like. So that's how I'm determining what that SWOT is. Where are my strengths? I'm not just guessing. I'm not just doing it based on my feelings. I'm looking at my numbers. And so many entrepreneurs don't really have this piece of their business tight. They don't have it down pat. They're not doing a great job at it. You have to be able to see your numbers and have your accountant, have your bookkeeper set up your numbers in a way that you can analyze it to help you make decisions based upon those numbers. And so you want to do a complete financial analysis. You also want to do a situational analysis. So you want to see what your current situation is and really identify in your organization what's working and what's not working, right? What my current situation is this, my salespeople are not being, effective. They're being very inefficient, or sales is costing me more money than it's actually bringing in. This is my current situation. I don't have things streamlined. And then you want to do an environmental analysis. And I do my external environmental analysis by looking at a couple of things: who my competitors are and what they're doing that's working for them, and what my ideal customer avatar says that they want. It is not about what I want. It is not about what I think. It is not about what I believe. It is about what my customer, who I'm targeting, tells me that they want, because their needs change from year to year. What they want changes from year to year. So if you haven't done a thorough customer analysis in a while, this might be the time to do it. And I do it every single year because I know that my customers' desires, needs, pain points, and challenges have changed. And I need to be able to adjust my marketing language. I need to be able to adjust my strategies so that I'm targeting those folks and I'm inviting them into my business. And I'm telling them, no matter how much you've changed, I am changing with you, and I can bring you the products and services that are going to help you get to what you ultimately want. So what do your customers want? Those are the three things I want you to pull and analyze in order to get to that SWOT, okay? Now, let me give you an example. In 2018, I did all of that in my business. And I took a look at my P&Ls by my services and my products. I looked at all of my sales conversion rates and saw, gosh, we're only converting 10% of the time. I looked at my service and customer retention rates, and I looked at other businesses in my industries, what they were doing. I did all of that stuff. And I discovered that I was really, really crappy at marketing. I was really crappy at marketing because I was traditional in it. At one point, I had a company that had 65 salespeople that were knocking on doors and making cold calls. I was buying lists. They were making phone calls. It was creating havoc in my life and in my brand. And I realized the old traditional way of marketing is no longer working. I'm spending more money and getting less return on it. So I did that analysis. And my conclusion that I came up with was, CP, you have got to upgrade your marketing. You've got to upgrade your marketing and focus on that. So that was an example of when I did that analysis, it helped me discover where I was really lacking and what was going to be that one piece of my business that really had the most impact in moving the needle for me. And so I'm going to share with you what I embarked upon when I came to those conclusions as we continue. But it was very different. And I'm telling you, it has changed the game in my business. So after I did that in 2018, you move on to step 2. Right? You move on to step 2, and you have to revisit your mission and your vision. You have to. A lot of times we create a mission for our organization in the very beginning. We create this vision of where we see our organizations going, and we never look at it again. Well, your mission isn't just what you want. It is really defined by what your ICA wants and who you want to attract as your customer. And when I say ICA, I mean ideal customer avatar, right? Your ideal customer, not any old customer, not the customer who's just going to bring you some revenue, but the one customer that you have that you love working with, that pays their invoices on time, that refers people to you, that shows up when they're supposed to, and that makes it easy for you to deliver the products and services. They've probably already become a friend of yours as well. So think about that guy or that girl. That's your ideal customer. And you've got to switch up your mission and your messaging of that mission to attract that girl or guy. So you might have to revisit it and make a tweak. And you also want to make sure that the vision that you've determined you want for your business is new enough to reflect the new future that you see, is new enough. When I did that exercise in 2018, I had to adjust my vision. My vision for my organization was no longer to be the number one this, in the area. It was to be the number one something else in a whole different area that I had never experienced before. So I had to really renovate my messaging. And that's what step 2 is so important about. So you've got your SWOT, you know what you're good at and what you're bad at and what's out there as an opportunity and a threat. And you got to say, all right, this is what I got to work on. Let me make sure that I'm tweaking my messaging and my vision in order to make that better. So you've done step 1 and step 2. Done step 1 and step 2. It is time to move on to step 3 in this process of creating the strategy. And it's time to define the goals for the new year, right? It's time to pick 3 to 4 things maximum. I've had times when I've only had to focus on 1 or 2 things because the capacity in my organization was just me. And I couldn't do 3 or 4 things. So I just picked 1 or 2. But 3 to 4 things maximum that you want to do, that you want to implement in your business in order to be able to eradicate those weaknesses, maximize those strengths, take advantage of those opportunities, and mitigate those threats. And also live that mission and work towards that vision that you have just redefined. So you want to identify those 3 or 4 major things. I want to get some ideas from you guys in the chat right now. If you could only focus on 3 or 4 things in any given year as a business owner and entrepreneur, would your lives change? If you could go from focusing on 20 to 25 things and only 3 to 4, would your lives change? If you agree, put yes, CP in the chat. Yes, CP. I feel you, CP. Amen, CP. Whatever you're feeling. Because my brain was all over the place. I was chasing shiny balls. I was like, oh, this opportunity. Oh, this looks good. Oh, let's try this. Let's try that. But these 3 to 4 things, if it didn't fit in these 3 to 4 things, I ignored it and said, this might be something good to revisit next year, but I've got my focus and I was able to put all of my effort and energy and love into those 3 things. So how do you define it, right? What are the 3 or 4 things that you're going to choose? This is what I want you to focus on. I want you to pick the 3 to 4 things that helps you capitalize off of your strengths, right? That helps you overcome the weaknesses, that helps you take advantage of your opportunities, and helps you mitigate any threats. Those are the only 4 things that you are allowed to take into consideration when you are picking your 3 to 4 things. All right. So here's my example. And this is what happened from that earlier story in 2018. So I told you guys, I figured out that I sucked at marketing. And I didn't even really know what that meant. I didn't even really know what sucked at marketing meant. So I realized that my strengths is that I'm very good at presenting, and we would see an influx of referrals and customers, and we would retain customers that we had acquired because of my public speaking or me going out there and delivering content in a live format. It gave me an opportunity to have my personality out there. I met with people. I was able to solve their problems. I was able to figure out what their problems were. And I also realized that my weaknesses were staying on top of hiring a marketing staff and staying on top of whether or not my salespeople had the same personality. I just didn't have time for all of that. I didn't know if they were doing their jobs well. I just didn't. So I needed to be able to drive more traffic into my business. So I knew that there were tons of opportunities out there, specifically as it related to businesses that were like mine, that were embarking upon this new digital marketing stuff. All this digital marketing and social media stuff that was going on. So that was an opportunity. And the biggest threat was I wasn't on social media doing nothing productive. I was on there taking a look at what my nieces were doing and liking my nieces' prom pictures. And I wasn't utilizing this amazing platform or these amazing platforms to maximize my business. So I had to come up with my goals. And at that point, one of my major goals was I needed to embark upon a aggressive and strategic digital marketing effort in my organization and grow my presence on social media. You see, so that was one of my major goals. Then I had to move on to step 4. I had to figure out what 2 to 3 things I was going to do, initiatives, in order to accomplish that major goal. This is a very important step that most entrepreneurs miss. We will every single year write down our goals because that's what we're supposed to do, right? That's what people tell us we're supposed to do. Write your goals down, come up with them. If you don't write them down, you'll never do them. But what are the 3 things or 2 things that you're going to do in order to get to that goal? Because we never go further and say, these are the steps that I've got to take to get there. And that's where you miss it. So that is step 4. Don't stop at documenting the goal. Go one step further and figure out the 2 or 3 specific initiatives that you're going to institute in your business in order to accomplish them. And you must make these initiatives smart. How will you do it smart? Specifically, what will you do? How will you measure your achievement in them? How will you make sure that they are achievable and realistic? And what are your deadline dates? You've got to make sure that you're doing them smart. And that is what SMART is: specific and measurable, achievable and relevant, and timely and time bound. Those are the 3 things you've got to make sure when you're documenting these initiatives, what they are. All right. You've got to make sure you've got that. So for example, we're going back to me. In this goal of embarking upon an aggressive digital marketing strategy to grow my inbound leads traffic by 100% by 12/31/2019. That was my specific goal, one of them. You hear how specific that is? How measurable that is? I had to grow my inbound leads traffic by 100% by 12/31/2019. So it was also time bound. Now you might be thinking, CP, you just said you wanted to grow your leads by 100%. God, is that realistic? Well, in my case, it was, because I only had like 5 inbound leads. So to grow it by 100%, I only needed to get to like 10. It was like that pathetic for me. So that was my overall piece. And I knew that in order for that goal to be met, my initiatives meant that I needed to increase my social media presence. I needed to make sure that I was posting and being consistent in social media. And ultimately, I made the specific decision to start a YouTube channel. I know. You're thinking, how did the YouTube channel come out of all of this stuff? Well, go back to those strengths and weaknesses that I mentioned. I knew from my analysis that my strengths were public speaking, seeing people face to face, getting in their faces, showing them my personality. I knew that those leads were the best. I knew that those were the most profitable leads. I knew that those customers were the ones that I retained the longest. YouTube makes the most sense if digital marketing was the overall goal, right? Because YouTube is a video. It allows me to get in front of people, to do what I love to do, to put the personality out there, and to increase my inbound leads. So that's what YouTube came from. And I thought, holy crap, I don't even have a YouTube channel. Like, I wasn't even one of those people. I had a YouTube account just to go on and learn how to, like, make organic cleaning supplies for my toilet. Like that's what I used it for, or how to figure out how to do my own oil change. I had no idea what to do in order to be able to successfully grow a YouTube channel. But that strategy, which was out there, I know, came from this entire process. From steps 1, 2, 3, and 4, my ultimate action items and initiatives under that growing my digital marketing strategy was to create and start my YouTube channel, which honestly has changed the game for my business. So step number 5, now I've got the YouTube channel. I need to start a YouTube channel. That's my goal, right? And that's my initiative. In order for me to increase my inbound leads by 100% by 12/31. Now, what do I have to do specifically? What actions do I have to take in order to start this YouTube channel? Well, that's your step 5. Underneath the goal, put the initiatives, And underneath the initiatives, put the specific action items. No matter how basic, no matter how trivial, no matter how, small you think they are, you've got to list the real true action items, and you've got to kind of write them in order. So in my example, right, in my example of my YouTube channel, my action items were basic. My very first action item was learn everything there is to know about YouTube, right? And my overall initiative was I had to get this whole thing done by 12/31/2019. And I knew that I needed to learn everything there was about YouTube in order to start. So my deadline date was January 31st. 2019. Like I only had 1 month to learn everything there was about YouTube. So that was my first action item. Then my second action item, after I learned and did a little bit of research, I realized I got to set up a business YouTube channel, which is a whole separate thing than just my regular personal one. I've got to brand it. I've got to create a banner. I've got to understand SEO. I've got all of these different things. And my action items, step by step, one by one, I began to document what I needed to do in order to create this YouTube channel. And that's what I mean. And they were very specific as well. Learn everything there is to know about YouTube by January 1st, 2019. Create the channel, the banner, and understand the SEO, define what your channel is by February 28th, 2019. So every single action item also had a deadline date that was designed to help me achieve the initiative and ultimately get to that goal of increasing my inbound traffic through digital marketing by the end of that year. Okay, so step number 6, and this is the one thing that I had to do as well. I realized in my journey, in my learning about YouTube specifically, but about any initiatives that I've ever done, is that it's tough if, as an entrepreneur, I'm not seeing things happen immediately. I'm very impatient. We tend to be that way. We love to do lots of different things. Our minds are going a million miles a minute. If you feel me, put yes CP in the chat. Mind a million miles a minute. So step number 6 is I had to define my KPIs and I had to review them often. And when I say KPIs, I know we've got traditional concepts as entrepreneurs of what a key performance indicator is. I don't even want you to be that specific or that, technical with it. Your key performance indicators are, what do you need to see in order to make sure that you feel like these action items and these initiatives are successful, right? What do you need to see? So for me, it's always been, I just need to make sure that I'm hitting 90% of these things on time. Because time was always my biggest downfall. I never had the time and I never got anything done and I never really moved forward because I put it off and I procrastinate, or I get busy with a big project and could never really get it achieved. So for me, my one KPI that I put in my growth plan, and I still put them in there, is to achieve 90% of everything that I've put in there by their deadline date. And I give myself 90% because it's still high, but it's also not unrealistic. Like, I know that things will happen that's going to prevent me from getting to 100%, right? So for me, that might be your KPI. If procrastinating, putting things off, allowing other priorities to take hold in your life prevents you from actually moving forward when you say you want to get something done, then maybe that's your KPI. You can totally use it. I'm giving you the copyright right now to take it. You don't need my permission. This is being recorded, right, Megan? It's being recorded. So she's got evidence that I'm giving you permission. Take that. That's your KPI. Achieve 90% of all of these things that I'm writing down in this strategy by their deadline date, whatever it is. So that's your step 6. Make sure that you've given yourself a real true KPI that's going to help you feel like you're getting things accomplished. Now, I want to talk about the real here, because I said to you guys, I'm going to tell you how to get this done and not just what you got to do to get it done. So that's my number 1 best kept secret: how to make the time to create this plan so that you can get your businesses like mine scaling from low 6 figures to multiple 6 figures and into the 7-figure and multiple 7 figures and 8-figure realm. Because that's ultimately what this one activity has been able to help me do in every single business that I've had. I've never really failed at being able to get to that next level because I was able to do this. So how do you make the time? And this is something that I make recommendations to all of my coachees, all of my students, all of my clients, right? You have to take a CEO retreat. You have to take a CEO retreat. A chief executive officer retreat. So let me tell you a little bit about what this retreat is. And I think I kind of clicked ahead too soon. But anyway, your CEO retreat is something that you need to schedule. And it's something that I found out maybe about 5 years ago that actually Bill Gates does and has always done. He calls them think weeks. And I've always done them in my business every single year from the very first business. They started out as just checking into a hotel down the street from my house on a Friday and checking out on Sunday and spending that entire time working on this strategy. That's literally what I do. And I give myself the ability to work around the clock. There's no kids telling me to put it down. There's no guilt from a husband in the other room waiting for me to stop working. There's no nothing. There's no business that I'm in. I'm focusing on my business. I put my out of office on, and it started in my very first business as 2 days. Now I am up to 7 full days. And I go away somewhere and I lock myself in a hotel room and I order a bunch of junk food and I put it in the refrigerator. I always get a sweet. I get several bottles of wine because what's a retreat without wine, people, right? I get Epsom salts. I do bubble baths. I schedule massages. I incorporate self-care. That's why they're 7 days now, by the way, because, I don't work around the clock anymore. I actually do a lot of self-care when I'm there too, because I deserve that. And I work on this 1 year strategy. I used to take them in November. And I realized that though that was just too late in the year because I didn't really have time, especially as my team grew. I needed time to share this with them. I needed time to finalize it, share it with them, and then give them what they needed to do so that we could hit the ground running in 2022, because I've only got 12 months to get this stuff done. So now I take them the end of August, early September, once the kids are back in school, after that holiday, right there in that first 3 weeks of September, I take it. And I used to go down the street in my neighborhood. Now, and I've been to Amish country. There's some great hotels in Amish country. And I like Amish country because, there's nothing to really do and distract you other than the flea market. I will take out time to go get cheese and that kind of stuff. Go to Amish country. I've actually gotten on an airplane and flown to Miami. That was a bad choice because there was so much to do that I really didn't work around the clock and get things done. But I actually have a full video on my YouTube channel. You can check it out. I'm on YouTube at Cheryl C. Perez, where I walk you through the agenda that I use in order to do the CEO retreat. So you can check out, if you type in Bill Gates, I think if you type in Bill Gates on my channel, it'll come up. It's the video, and I walk you through the whole agenda. But you've got to take the CEO retreat. It's the only way that you're going to be able to get this done. If you believe that you're going to be able to find chunks of time throughout the year as an entrepreneur growing their business and living your dream to work on your business, you're kidding yourself. And it gives you the pass to not have to worry about doing it. It takes away that guilt. If you feel guilt as an entrepreneur, because you're always like, I got to find time to do this and I don't know how I'm going to do it, and you feel guilty when you don't, this CEO retreat will change your life. Mine is up to a week. I'm actually contemplating adding 2 of them a year, one and halfway through the year and one at the end of the year, and because I just like going away and working. But I get a king size bed. Half the bed is my office. If I wake up in the middle of the night with those racing thoughts that we get, I roll over and I work. I might work 2 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock, and then I just sleep in the morning. That CEO retreat is what you're going to do in order to get this done. I need you to promise me, and put it in the chat, if you're going to promise me right now that you are going to schedule your CEO retreat. Say, yes, I'm going to schedule it, CP. Just yes, I'm going to schedule it in the chat for me so that I can follow up. Let's just put it that way. I'll follow up and say, when is yours scheduled and where you're going? That's always interesting. That's always good. So my final thoughts, right? My final thoughts and your free gift, as I promised you, I got to make sure that I do it. I got to make sure, is this. A growth strategy is going to change the game for you as an entrepreneur, not just from a business perspective, but from a peace of mind perspective. Your anxiety levels will go down, your stress levels will go down, and your focus and your tenacity will kick in so much that you will be hitting and clicking on all cylinders, because you will not be chasing shiny balls, and everybody in your organization, even if it's just you, will be on the same page, because I know if it's just you, you're wearing 17 different hats. So there's really 17 of you, right? So this is going to change the game. So I got 2 free gifts, really. 3 strategies. I told you I was going to tell you 3 strategies that you needed to implement in 2022. As you guys are planning yours and you're thinking, what should I be doing? Number 1 thing is digital marketing using social media. If you haven't employed that, if you haven't taken the time to really incorporate that into your business as an entrepreneur, 2022 is the time to do that. Remember, I told you that that original strategy of mine was to change and increase my inbound leads through an aggressive digital marketing effort by 100% by 12/31/2019. We went from inbound leads coming from referrals, and I exaggerated, it wasn't really 9, it was probably closer to 90 a year. And now I receive 175 inbound leads a day. Yes, a day, just by implementing that strategy. So if you haven't done it, definitely do it. That requires you to do number 2, which is a strategic content marketing strategy. Those 2 things go together. And the 3rd strategy that I would tell you to very seriously consider is creating and documenting your organizational SOPs. If you haven't done that yet, and all the SOPs, all your standard operating processes and all that stuff is in your head, take the time in 2022 to consider that as being one of your strategies. Those 3, and I work with entrepreneurs all over the world, I coach and develop them. Those 3 things, when we work on those, change the game 95% of the time when you actually implement them. So those are the 3 things. Now, your free gift. I want you to go to CherylCperez.com/growth strategy workbook and get and download your free workbook. It is about 30 pages of your workbook that will actually help you document this when you go on your CEO retreat. It's going to help you figure out your SWOT. It's going to help you go through all the steps. You're going to document your goals, your initiatives, your action items, your deadlines. It's going to walk you through everything that I just went over with you. And again, I just did a 3-part detailed series on my YouTube channel at Cheryl C. Perez on this exact thing. I just did it. Like, I think the last one was maybe 2 weeks ago. So you should be able to grab that as well. All right. So what's your questions? Questions, comments?
Cheryl, I'll start. I always have questions. So in that idea of, finding the 3 or 4 things that you're going to focus on, how do you recommend someone goes through that process? Because there's a lot of things that people are doing because they believe so much in them. They've been a part of their business. Those things are hard to let go of. So is it as much about letting go and delegating? Talk a little bit about that process.
You mean coming up with them or implementing them?
Implementing them. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yes. So I think one of the first keys for me in implementing my action items was being realistic in my capacity. Because as you grow in stages as an entrepreneur, you start out in the beginning and you may always stay as a solopreneur. And so when I was in the beginning and I was doing this, this strategy development, and I was coming up with 9 things and all that stuff, I never got them done because I was setting myself up for failure without even realizing, girl, it's just you. You can't do all 9 of these things. So the first step was realizing and being realistic in what I was going to be able to implement and only committing myself to that. So that's the first step. The second step, as I grew my team and realized, there's other people that are in charge of these strategies, really, in my business. I had to communicate it and get their buy-in. So what I began doing was creating the overall goals for the organization, and then coming up with those initiatives, those 3 to 4 things underneath each goal that we were going to do. And I wouldn't do the action items. I would do that on my retreat and come back and meet with my team who was responsible for those different areas, and then say, all right, what do we need to do in order to get this stuff done, and have my team actually help me come up with the action items. And that buy-in prevented me from feeling the need to delegate, because it really wasn't mine to delegate anymore. It was really theirs to take responsibility and ownership of. And it became really, really easy for me to get it implemented. At that point, once we have a final plan, we would just meet on a monthly basis for me to say what was due last month, what's due next month, what'd you get done, why didn't you get it done, remember our target. And I always had this award for my team, and this might be a little impact tip too. My team, if we hit the KPI of 90% achievement of all of our goals and action items by the deadline date, I would take them on a trip. So we've gone to Cancun, we've done a cruise. So they were very realistic in setting those deadline dates and very, very serious about getting them done. So as I grew, I kind of incentivized hitting that KPI as well.
And just one comment on that, because you and I started out the conversation before everyone came on talking about talent, and just you talking about the way that you engage the team and really being a part of developing the strategy, that culturally creates more buy-in. And I'm sure that you have, you know, from a talent perspective, that's been really positive for you.
It has been. It's you also learn a lot about people who are entrepreneurial in thought process, because as entrepreneurs, we typically want to surround ourselves with other people who think entrepreneurially. And sometimes we get frustrated with our employees who aren't thinking entrepreneurially. I don't even know if that's a real word. That might be something I just made up. But I mean, like, you know, problem solvers, people who have initiative and, you know, they can identify problems and figure out how to get them done and just do it. I mean, that's what we always want, because that's who we are. And going through this process with my team, I identified very, very quickly who those people were. And so it made it very easy for me to know who to promote, who to put in leadership roles, who to rely on, who to check in with. And it motivated my team members who never really had to institute those skills in their own minds and lives. It motivated them to begin to develop those skills better, because they just wouldn't be in Cancun with us. You know, they just wouldn't be there, because they're like, well, I want to go to Cancun to an all-inclusive. Well, you got to get some goals done, you know? So it started helping me in that perspective too.
That's great. And I was looking at the chat. I agree with Kelly. I think we should have a CEO retreat at your place. Kelly thought we should just come to your house.
Oh, well, everybody, that is totally awesome. Bring Swiffers and some dust mops. I'm currently really into the Method organic cleaning supplies that are antibacterial. Bring all of that with you and we will totally retreat it out.
Got it. Any other questions, comments, thoughts after hearing the presentation?
Did you guys like it? Did you have fun? Did you learn anything? Tell us that.
I think silence means yes.
I think silence means yes. Awesome.
Yes, there we go.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Absolutely. I'm glad that you got something out of it. And if you can walk away with just a few key things, and hopefully the workbook will definitely help you. I know I created it because it's kind of like the structure that I use every single time. So go out and grab it. It's totally yours. I know for me, one key thing that, you know, if you didn't learn anything at all today except take a CEO retreat, then do that. It changes your life. I don't care what you do. I use one whole day now just to sleep and get caught up on it. My very first day is sleeping, and that's okay too.
Well, as you deserve. So thank you, Cheryl, so much. Thank you all for joining us. We did record this, as I mentioned. I know a few of you were asking about the workbook, so I will make sure we get this out to you afterwards so you can listen to the presentation, pass it on to any of your colleagues or other small business friends. And you can also get a link to the workbook then within the PowerPoint. So thank you all and have a wonderful weekend and a great holiday season.
Happy holidays, guys.